Look, with eCoin equal to $1, it'll free up the economy.
It's unconstitutional. You can't make your own currency. That is the federal government's job.
The problem here is hard cash is fading rapidly. That's just the way of the world right now. And Bitcoin is spreading, and if Bitcoin takes over, we are all in a world of hell. With eCoin, we control the ledger and the mining servers. We are the authority. I will make sure you have visibility into every single wallet that's open, every loan, every transaction, which means we can start making new assets, which means we can start rebuilding the banking sector without your having to inject even more politically unpalatable federal funds into it. This is going to be controlled by a good old-fashioned American company. You want to regulate it? Be my guest.
I was watching a program series recently about a hacker that formed some type of hacker group that was determined to collapse the United States financial system. While I do not recommend the show, there was a lot of telling events that transpired in it that seemed like a glimpse into the coming future we are spiraling towards. The majority of people I speak to, no matter how much I explain how bad of a crisis we are facing and how close it is to appearing, it never seems to stick with them. They do make certain moves, but don't take the full guidance into consideration and move on it. I mean, just look at the world in 2020. In this year, the whole world was put on lockdown because of a virus that the most powerful country in the world is blaming the second most powerful country for spreading.
Not at all. It comes from China. That's why. It comes from China. I want to be...
There have been massive layoffs and business closings, with many jobs predicted never to return again. The stock market initially started collapsing, and then when the Fed started printing more money and said they would leave interest rates to zero for the next 3 years, the market started roaring again, showing that the economics are only running because of free inflated money that cannot last forever. Then we have global conflicts brewing all over the world, with all the setups for World War III. Add to that, we have the most narcissistic, disruptive president in the history of the country, running for re-election against another man that shows signs of dementia and clearly makes moves for attention with an agenda that, if elected, could collapse the economy with the implementation of just one of his spending plans. And then adding to this, we are getting closer to an election that says chaos all over it, where the expectation has pretty much been set not to expect a clear decision on election day. And if there is a decision, it will probably be contested. We even had President Trump warning this during the debate.
This is not going to end well. This is not going to end well.
It will not end well. We have the narrative of a resurgence of the virus with increasing talks and suggestions of a future second shutdown. We have Israel claiming their Messiah is on the way, and conflict brewing even harder in the Middle East, with Turkey now making claims on Jerusalem. I mean, the only thing that seems certain is that we have major uncertainty, and change is in the air. We are all waiting for one spark to set it all ablaze. And it seems like the majority of the people in the world are walking like the walking dead, oblivious to the possibilities ahead of them. It can be frustrating talking with many of the zombies, especially when many of them talk with such confidence about their ignorance. Either way, the future we are headed towards is going to be a transitional one that leads us into fulfillment of Bible prophecy. The events that happen next are all about preparing the world for their satanic goals. And in order for it to happen, there is a lot of conditioning that must take place. An example of this will be like how we were all prepared for the lockdowns that took place when coronavirus came on the scene. Do you think that they could have successfully pulled off these global lockdowns 20 years ago? Of course not. We were conditioned with technology and virtually connecting with people so that over time, a lockdown, keeping a majority of the world's citizens away from each other, seemed normal. In fact, they told us it would be the new normal. There's so much that if you pay attention, you can see how they've been conditioning us to be ready for the next part of their plan. And there seems to be a next step that we are being made ready for and conditioned to accept. And if you're not ready for it, when implemented, things can move so fast that you get sucked into their schemes, eventually leading you to willingly accept the mark of the beast. So we need to discuss what exactly is happening with money. Let's begin. So listen, one reason why I'm confident about this coming collapse is because of what is happening to the dollar in the financial markets. I have been warning of a dollar collapse for some time now. And I get it. People are like, it hasn't happened yet, so you're just paranoid. That has to be how my friends look at it. But anyway, there's a dollar collapse coming that will affect everyone in the world. The only countries that may not be affected as bad as the others are those that have been working to shield themselves and have been moving away from the dollar, like Russia has been doing and China has been trying to do. But it will affect them too, nonetheless, because the world will collapse economically until a new system is put in place. And that is the intention and goal why there will be a collapse. It's to implement a new system. They bring in their order out of chaos. If you do not understand the reasons for the dollar collapse, please watch the video I made on it a year or more ago. And after you've listened to the reasoning, ask yourself, have they been working on the problem to make it better? Or have the actions they have made over the scapegoat of COVID made the conditions much worse? But if you watch it, you can fully understand why this is something everyone should be moving in awareness of. Now, in reference to the dollar collapse, do you think that the world system is speaking on this and preparing its citizens of it? Are the major financial channels and news outlets telling people of the danger that exists in regards to this? I mean, you'll get the occasional mention of it so that no one can ever say that they never mentioned it. But no, the truth is that they are not preparing the world for this. In fact, what they're saying is that they need to spend and print more money. They are literally arguing about spending more. On Tuesday, the Fed chair, Jay Powell, literally said too little stimulus is worse than too much. And then the same day, Trump says that he wants to stop negotiating over the stimulus, and the markets immediately reverse downward, showing that our economic situation is only based upon the printing of money, which inflates our money and reduces our spending power. The markets are showing that our only solution is to reduce the strength of our currency while wages don't go up and jobs continue to be lost. Anyone that is paying attention and just not trying to hear what they want to hear can clearly see that what they are saying is that no matter what, we have a problem. Let me just explain it briefly for anyone that may not get why stimulus is bad. Let's say that you have a small country and you have only printed out $1 million to circulate. All the prices are set according to the value and scarcity of that $1 million. But let's say there are economic bad times and people aren't making money. So the government says, let's help everyone and print some money. So then they print another $1 million. Now everyone got their money, so they are happy. But what they did not realize is that the value of their money is now decreased. Now when you do this one time or so, it may not be such a big deal. But when you do this over decades, in that last decade, you do it on steroids, overprinting, and that money supply that was at $1 million now has been printed to 1 trillion, adding 6 more zeros. The value of that currency has been severely lowered. The purchasing power, which you're able to buy things for, has been severely lowered. So you're going to see prices increase. Add that with the fact that this money is not free and it is being borrowed, adding to our debt. You are now in a financial situation that the only way that you can get out of it is if you print more money and borrow money at 0 interest forever. The minute you have to pay the slightest amount of interest, the system can implode. Now, this is an extreme oversimplification to a huge problem, but I hope you get the picture. The only way of getting out of this is to print more money and reduce the value of the currency that the whole world uses in some way. Now, if the money was backed by gold or something like that, then there would be something stabilizing it. But when the money is backed by nothing except the faith and trust in the economic system, you have a problem. The only thing that is keeping our economic system afloat is the trust that the people in the world have in it. In 2011,
for the first time in the history of the ratings, Standard & Poor's downgraded the United States credit rating late Friday. The agency said it is cutting the country's top AAA rating by 1 notch to AA+. S&P said it's making the move because the deficit reduction plan passed by Congress this week did not go far enough to stabilize the country's debt situation. S&P first put the government on notice in April that a downgrade was possible unless Congress and the administration came up with a credible long-term deficit reduction plan and avoided a default on the country's debt. After months of wrangling and negotiations with the administration, Congress passed a debt reduction package at the 11th hour that averted a possible default, but that did little to change the outcome. The S&P said that in addition to the downgrade, It is issuing a negative outlook, meaning that there was a chance it would lower the rating further within the next 2 years.
Citing concerns about budget deficits, which, by the way, has exploded. And in this year, in 2020, another rating agency, Fitch, revised our outlook from stable to negative. They noted that the United States benefited from issuing debt in the world's reserve currency, but highlighted that the United States government had the highest debt of any AAA-rated sovereign, and there was no credible fiscal consolidation plan in light of the economic shock caused by coronavirus disease 2019 pandemic. They predicted government debt to exceed 130% of GDP by 2021. That is ridiculously crazy. And last year, it was reported by CNBC that a growing club of very powerful countries is steering away from using the dollar. China, Russia, and the European Union are some major movers behind this push. Now, I don't want to lose you with all that economic jargon. I just use that to show you that the world has been paying attention and there are currently plans being made for movement away from our current financial situation, which leads me to the main reason for this video. With all that understanding, the question or concern is not really if the dollar will collapse, but really when will it happen and what will we transition to? The world has been giving us the answers, but the majority are not paying attention. Now I'm sure that anyone that has heard of what the system wants to call as conspiracy theories has heard that the world will be going cashless onto a single world currency. Now, if that is hard for you to imagine, I suggest you wake up and come into reality. Today, they are literally telling us that cash is not preferred anywhere. They have come up with this coin shortage problem that sounds like complete garbage. But either way, it's here. So because there is a coin shortage, all companies are asking you not to use cash or you won't be able to get your change back. If you weren't aware what that is called, this is called conditioning. So it's right in your face. They are conditioning us to be cashless. Not that they weren't already with our credit and debit cards using Apple Pay and doing things online. I mean, I rarely ever carry cash. I've been conditioned not to. The point I'm making is that we are already pretty much there in the mental conditioning of being cashless. People look at you funny if you even try to pay cash for something, and they check the bills because they assume it's fake. So it's clear that a cashless society is not some far-off science fiction plot. Now, through some things spoken of last month and events that happened this week, I'm seeing how that conditioning could be taking place, and that's what I want people to be aware of. When I started this video, I said this seems to be the next step that we are being made ready for and conditioned to accept. And if you're not ready for it, when implemented, things could go fast that you get sucked into their schemes, eventually leading you to willingly accept the mark of the beast.
I can't believe he just paid with his hand.
Now, I want to be clear here. When I say be ready for it, I'm not talking about financially. This isn't about you being ready with money. And though it is obviously true that those that are better prepared financially than others will always do better, it's not about protecting your financial livelihood, but protecting your mental, protecting your mind. Everything that is happening today is a mental war. Yes, they are warring against many physical things like your money and your physical well-being. But in the end, it's all about controlling your mind. Their method is creating unexpected chaos that catches you off guard. And then when there is enough desperation, they introduce their solution, their order. That's what order out of chaos is. So anyway, let's talk about what happened this week. There's been this big debate over stimulus. The Republicans want less than $2 trillion, and the Democrats want over $2 trillion. A fight over billions, which is a stupid debate. So there's obviously more to it. But Trump is doing his normal negotiation tactics, and the markets are moving off of him and his rhetoric. But they are making an issue of how Americans are able to get stimulus money that is needed to prop up this consumer-driven economy. Stimulus is like an indirect bailout of companies, because people don't save that money that the government is giving them. They use it in the stores. They may use it on their bills. But there is a problem brewing. And the first part is that they wonder if the people will even get the stimulus money. And if they do pass it, the system in place of sending the people money is said to be an issue. Like this article from Brookings Institution said, the financial response to the COVID crisis demonstrated the inability of the federal government to rapidly get money to people during times of crisis. It took between 3 weeks and 3 months for Americans to receive a single penny of the emergency impact payments, aka COVID stimulus. So, as we see, the narrative of the problem is that 1, the United States government can't work together to get its citizens the money that it desperately needs, and 2, even if they do agree, there still is a problem with how they are implementing getting these payments to them. Are you able to see better where this is going? Now let me backtrack a little, because in that show that I was speaking about, when they collapsed the United States financial system at the end of season 1, in the beginning of season 2, they showed that this all happened and was allowed because powerful people had certain agendas. They showed what a fallout of the financial system looked like, and it wasn't pretty. But what they also showed was how the system created a solution called eCoin.
The future is here. Introducing eCoin, a new currency for a new era. More reliable than cash and more stable than credit. It's the perfect solution for the post-5/9 world. eCoin is safe, secure, and the easiest way to purchase the things you love. Visit your local Bank of E branch today and speak to one of our friendly representatives to create your own eCoin account. Or visit us on the web at e-coin.com. There are no annual fees, no credit checks. So join the future. eCoin, a new currency for a new era.
And it was a digital currency created by the most powerful company in the world, which is called eCorp. I never really got to understand exactly what the company was a metaphor of. But either way, what was important is that because the economic system collapsed, they stepped in and gave everyone a new economic system that rivaled Bitcoin.
Signed the 5/9 Economic Accord, making eCoin the currency by which all others will be measured. The only obstacle is the illegitimate monetary imposture that China has unofficially adopted. Bitcoin.
And the same company provided loans of their eCoin currency to everyone, getting everyone conditioned in a new economic system.
With eCoin's soaring popularity, eCorp CEO Philip Price announced what he is calling a revolutionary new loan program backed by the emerging cryptocurrency. eCoin loans are being touted as having increased benefits over conventional U.S. dollar-backed loans, all of which are designed to support low and middle-income borrowers.
So throughout the rest of the series, you would see signs of eCoin accepted here, and everyone using this digital currency. But that's fiction. Let's come back to our reality. We just spoke about what the narrative of the problems were. 1, the United States government can't work together to get its citizens the money that it desperately needs. And 2, even if they do agree, there's still a problem with how they implement getting those payments to the people. So, has the United States come out with a solution to this problem yet? The answer is a clear yes. But because CNN is not reporting on it in their normal hypnotizing way, most people are unaware. Last month, on September 23rd, the president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland, Loretta Mester, made a speech about the Federal Reserve's research on digital money options. She said that different parts of the Fed are researching how the central bank could offer its own full electronic currency, and that these efforts have come under greater focus due to the pandemic and its big impact on how consumers and businesses pay for goods and services during the crisis. She said the demand for and use of such instruments need further consideration in order to evaluate whether such a central bank digital currency would allow for quicker and more ubiquitous payments in times of emergency and more generally. A range of potential risk and policy issues surrounding central bank digital currency need to be better understood, and the costs and benefits evaluated. You can read a transcript of her speech on clevelandfed.org. But what she says in this speech is so critical to understand. She said, the experience with pandemic emergency payments has brought forward an idea that was already gaining increased attention at central banks around the world. That is, central bank digital currency, CBDC. Legislation has proposed that each American have an account at the Fed in which digital dollars could be deposited as liabilities of the Federal Reserve banks, which could be used for emergency payments. Other proposals will create a new payment instrument, digital cash, which will be just like the physical currency issued by central banks today, but in a digital form, and potentially without the anonymity of physical currency. Depending on how these currencies are designed, central banks could support them without the need for commercial bank involvement via direct issuance into the end user's digital wallets, combined with central bank facilitated transfer and redemption services. The Federal Reserve has been researching issues raised by central bank digital currency for some time. The Board of Governors has a technology lab that has been building and testing a range of distributed ledger platforms to understand their potential benefits and trade-offs. So in case all of that wording confused you, basically, you should see that, like the show I referenced illustrated, the Federal Reserve, the central bank of the United States, along with other central banks around the world, have been already researching a central bank digital currency. China's central bank, the People's Bank of China, have already developed and piloted their own digital yuan this year. The European Central Bank has intensified its works on a digital euro. This isn't science fiction or conspiracy theory. This is happening right now in public, but out of mainstream attention. There's already a United States digital currency called US dollar coin that is pegged to the United States dollar. Though it's not backed by the Fed, it is tied to the value of the dollar. So what am I getting at? First, it should be understood that the central banks of the world are working on a new financial system. They can use jargon that simply makes it sound like they are using the same currency, just making it digital. But it is a complete change from the way money is moved around. Our current financial system works off a financial system called SWIFT, which allows money to move around electronically through that system. In order for money to be moved around, money is transferred through banks around the world. With this new digital system, there is no need for a middleman, the banks, and direct payments can be made between governments and its citizens, businesses and the consumer, business to business. Again, there's no need for a middleman. That is a financial system change that brings along a lot of change along with it. It's a change that everyone should be taking note of. What this is called is the beginning of the Great Reset, which many people are hinting is right at our doorsteps. What the Fed is proposing is basically a form of quantitative easing for people. You see how the system works today. Normally, all of their money printing went directly to the banks, and then the banks determined pretty much who they would give the money to. But now the Fed is getting creative, looking in their toolbox, creating new tools, and now is looking to give direct free money to the people. This is dangerous, but it's inevitable. If you notice all the talk of socialism over the past years, especially over these last two presidential elections, the talk of socialist-style programs has never been greater. We see an acceptance of Bernie Sanders-style economics. Andrew Yang, who never had a chance of being elected, ran on a policy of giving everyone $1,000 per month, no questions asked. This is called universal basic income, and they only spoke about it in the debates to get people conditioned for it. And while we can never see how the politics could allow this to happen, we are now seeing just how these things can and will be implemented. What the Fed president was implying is that because a system like this is so hard for the American government to implement, the Fed could step in and provide a system that would give all the citizens an account at the Fed, and then in a few seconds you would be credited with their digital currency, which could be transferred to a digital wallet, and I guess maybe a bank account. But common sense tells me when this is implemented, we will see a dissolution of banks, especially when all of them fail because of the financial collapse, where all the corporate bankruptcies come back and give them massive losses that they can't recoup from. That's a lot, I know. The Fed is not a government agency. It does not answer to politicians. It's not regulated by the United States government, so it can pretty much do whatever it is that they would like to do. A report done by WolfStreet.com said, there are about 210 million adults in the United States. If the Fed decided to throw $3 trillion, not at the markets as it has done since March, but at Americans directly, it would translate into a lump sum payment of about $14,000 for each adult. So a household of 2 adults would get $28,000, whether this household is made up of a couple living in a tent or a couple shuttling between their mansions with billions of dollars in assets. I know there are many people that hear things like the Fed giving them money and are probably like, yeah, that sounds great. But this is literally how they make dependent slaves accepting socialistic style programs like universal basic income. And the general public are happy to receive it without realizing that the terms of these payments come at extremely high cost as well, because this means the end of the United States dollar. Because this would set off the consumer price index and drive consumer inflation. That's a lot of technical that just alludes to hyperinflation of prices. Just think of it this way. Let's say you have been saving US dollars and worked hard to get over 20,000 saved. But in one fell swoop, the Fed steps in to help Americans and everyone receives almost the same 20,000 you took years to save. Do you think that 20,000 you worked hard for to save will have the same value it did when you were saving it? Of course not. Now, do I think that this future stimulus will be brought about like this in the terms of the digital payments through the Fed? No, I don't. They will not be implementing this until things get decisively worse for the people, and the government must seem completely dysfunctional as it appears to be heading. Right now, they are just creating the right narrative for this to come about. Events like another lockdown over coronavirus and a contested election that gives us a government that does not work, and then a Supreme Court that is not able to judge, these are conditions where I can see the Fed stepping in like this. Or maybe there's something else completely. I can't tell the future, but I just pay attention to the narratives that they put out. Now, I've taken a lot of time to go over the problem and what is happening, but what I haven't done is give enough mention to what to do about it. First, there is nothing you can do about it. This is the way the world is moving to. You can't change these things from happening. When you add these digital currencies being suggested, and then you add the call for this vaccine they are trying to administer, it is very clear that there's going to be more to this solution with their implementation. I mean, how can they make everyone feel comfortable knowing that they are not carrying this coronavirus, even if someone is vaccinated? How can employers feel safe to hire employees if they're not certain that their employees were vaccinated? It seems very obvious that this world is racing towards the mark of the beast, where Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 17 says, "He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast, or the number of his name." You see, this mark will not happen until the beast, or Antichrist, and his false prophet have been introduced to the world. What we are seeing now is the rolling out of the carpet for acceptance of this new beast system that will be implemented. The best thing you can do for yourself is be mentally prepared for this collapse. It will affect those who are not preparing for it harder than those who were. You also want to do your best to shield yourself from being dependent upon their answers. Just because they offer the free money to you doesn't mean that you need to take it. You may need to adjust your expectations for life. Learn to live on less, or have food and supplies that can get you through the storm. Live in reality, in the world that is presented before you, and not in a world that you have created to shield you from reality. This week, I had a friend really frustrate me because he told me his job would shield him from the mark of the beast, and we are 10 years away from people being microchipped. I'm like, how can you say all these things confidently with the world being like it is? He's living in a false reality, not preparing himself for the likelihood that he could be wrong. It's really sad, and you do not want to be like him. We cannot predict times and set dates, but one thing is for certain, that with this much uncertainty in our direct paths, saying nothing will happen for 10 years is a cop-out for the weak, and if you're a believer, you must be strong. As believers, we have assurances from our Father, and we must live with trust in them. There is nothing wrong with planning for a storm. Anyone that says otherwise obviously has never lived in Florida, where a devastating hurricane is possible every year. Those who are prepared before the storm comes do better when the panic sets in and the stores are emptied out and you can't get anything that you need. The purpose of this video is to prepare you mentally for a future that seems to be upon us. Now that you know, you are better prepared for it than if it came at you unexpectedly. I cannot tell you what is best for you in order to prepare, because everyone's situation is different. I can't tell you if investing in digital currencies is right for you or wrong for you. That's not my job. Do what Father leads you. I can tell you that preparing your mental is highly important, but above all of it, preparing yourself spiritually is essential, because no matter what, you're going to need to rely on our Father to guide you through what you need to do and how to do it. You're going to need to learn to yield to His Holy Spirit and let Him guide you through all things. You're going to need to trust Him in all areas of your life. Your preparations are not your saving grace, and not preparing is not saying that you have a lot of faith in others. All I can say is, do as you feel Father is leading you. Remember, He will keep us in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on Him, because we trust Him. Trust in Yahweh forever, for in Yahweh is everlasting strength. That's Isaiah chapter 26, verses 3 and 4. Keep your mind stayed on him, and he will guide us into what we should do and how it should be done. We just want to make sure that we are not attached to this world and its direction. Be prepared for hardships, to let things go. If you come across the choice of either hardship or easy money that comes at a price of submission, choose hardship, and this is something that you should be mentally preparing yourself for now. Blessed is that man who has made Yahweh his trust, and has not turned to the proud, and those turning aside to falsehood. Psalms chapter 40, verse 4. Who will you trust in? This is not about you living in fear, but about you knowing that you must put your complete trust in our Father and be prepared for a coming transition that is about conditioning the world for the mark of the beast. When you have a digital currency that can control who buys and sells, the need for vaccine that will need to be verified by employers, businesses, and governments, and then a microchip that they are alluding to being implemented, you need to make sure you are not aligned to the world and what it's being guided into. Let go of your love of this world and the things in it. The end of this current world order is upon us, and we are being transitioned into a new system that will bring about massive satanic change. Our only hope is our Father in heaven, and you cannot get to him without belief in his Son whom he sent, Yahshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ. It's time that you commit to him now and surrender your life to his will. Your time is running out. Be ready. Be blessed. Okay, thanks again for watching. If this has blessed you, please don't forget to like this and share it with others. If you have not done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Elohim willing, I upload every Friday. Don't forget to follow this ministry on Facebook and Instagram, as well as on my website, truthunedited.com. As always, I really would like to thank all those who support this ministry. You know who you are. Your contributions have been an extreme blessing to this ministry, and I'm very thankful for you. Thank you for being a blessing to this ministry. Okay, thanks again everyone for watching. I love you all.